Right, let's do a little bit more with all these variables that we created, so they're not just like single entities, like we only want to print out numbers, but we actually want to do different things with it. I'm just going to delete those and start fresh with a new set of arrays that we want to do. So I'm just going to use the basics x equals 10. I'm going to use a variable y equals 5. That's really pretty, right? So, and again here I can just, if I just want to print out the value of x, I just do this, put the x in my console log, go to my browser and prints out 10. What if I want to put them together? So if I want to make sure I want to calculate x plus y, so it shows 15 instead of this. Easy way to do this is just go in here, type x plus y. So we're using a operator here, and the operator is the plus sign in this case. So let's do this, check, and go here, and now it prints out 15. That's one of the operator. Another one is a minus, which would lead to 5. That's cool. We can also do a divide. So 10 divided by 5 should be 2. And we can do a multiply, there we go, which should equals 50, and so on and so on. So these are operators we can use to actually see or calculate things for us, of course, but that's one way of doing them. We can do them here and typing in like this, but that means in our console log or in the thing we're going to print, we can end up by having a really large like information string here we need to do. So if I wanted to add text as well, it could go really huge, but instead we can actually create a new variable called set. And variable set can actually do a pre-calculation for us. Basically what it is, we can just say x plus y, and instead of having to type that down here, we just type set. So we're kind of dividing or modularizing our code into smaller pieces, and then just using those specific pieces when we need them. So let's do this. It says 15, or I could create something that's called add, and I can create something called variable minus or subtract is probably the better English word for this. That's x minus y, and then going to use the subtract here, and then it's 5, and so on and so on. You can do the same for strings. So if I'm just going to create something, a new one down here. So if I have a string 1 and this text is hello, and I have a string 2 that says everybody. Or even better, I'm going to use hello, good news. There we go, good news. Like this. So we created a string 2, or string 1 and string 2, and we want to print them out as well. So console.log, we could do string 1 plus string 2. That's the one way of doing it, or we can do a variable that collects or adds them together. So print me, what we're going to call it, or greeting, maybe that's better. And we're going to add string 1 together with string 2. But before we do this super awesome thing, we're just going to print out string 1 to make sure that it says good news and nothing more. And string 2 would of course do this, but if I put in greeting now, it's going to print out both of them. So good news, because there's no space between them. Easy fix would be just by doing it in here. This space it can read. Yes. If you do the, whoops, what did I do? There we go. This down here, the spaces down here with that one, it can read because it's JavaScript. If you want to create a manual space down here, we would have to do this. So adding, I'm just going to do that really slow again. So this is the standard version. So we're just adding the two variables together. If we want to create a specific space between the lettering, one other way we could do, if we don't have the possibility to do it up here in the variable, is we add a plus, because we want to add a little bit more now. We want to add a string, and then space and the plus for the second part of the variable, and we just create the space here. This is what it means. We're creating a string that contains a space, and then we use the plus on each side to make sure it knows the structure and the flow of the JavaScript. So let's go out here, and now we have the plus or the space between them. And we can continue adding on this, plus let's just add in the add for some reason. And let's see what happens here. So now it says, good news everybody, 15. And we can do the same with creating spaces like this up here in a even new variable. So we can add variables into other variables and adding new strings and so on into these. So this is a good way of collecting and structuring your data. I know right now it's not really, but right now it's like kind of like just examples. But this is a good way to do things if you have many small things, like gathering them into new variables and then using those, and then you can use them even again. Like up here we have add, subtract. We can even create one that's add plus, no, add sub, and then we can do add plus subtract up like this, and that's in this, and then we can do in here add sub. That means it's going to use these two first, put them in here, put it into the add, then it's going to do the same for the subtract, and then the add sub is going to use add, which is the value of x plus y. It's going to use subtract, plus them with the operator, and then we got printed out a variable that's 20 right now because it's plussing those, doing minus for those, and then adding them together. Or we could do minus here, but I think you get the point, where we can start doing things like this, just adding more stuff to it and making it more dynamic. So if we only change the value one place, everything is going to change. Like here, so now it's 6 instead. But that's one way of using variables and things like this, and let's see what we can do with this in the next couple of videos.